Hello and welcome to the Spotlight interview series. I'm your host, Barrett McDonald. I am joined today by Paul Williams, founder of Online Job Market and IT Essentials. Paul, thank you so much for joining us today. Would you like to kick things off with a little bit about yourself and how you jumped on your entrepreneurial journey?
Sure. Yeah. Well, thank you for having me here. Well, the entrepreneurial journey basically started back in 2010, just after the market crash, if you will. And I seen an opportunity to start business in IT, which had been my experience for the past, 2 decades prior to that. So I looked at it as an opportunity to start a new business in 2010.
Awesome. That's fun. So what have you discovered are some of the common misconceptions about running a business and how do you address them?
Well, it's interesting. A lot of times, obviously, anyone starting a business, obviously can't see the misconceptions until you're halfway into it. So there's a handful of things that kind of come to mind. For me, a lot of people, and including myself, I thought running a business would just be successful. And, come to find out that as you start a business, there's a lot of things to it that just doesn't guarantee that instant success. Entrepreneurs, sometimes people think that they have control over all the things within their business. Well, as an entrepreneur, I mean, there's a lot of surprises that are going to happen along the way. And until you're in the business, it's maybe hard to appreciate that. Profit is another thing that comes up. I know, early on, most businesses just don't generate a profit. So the first year or two, you're just not generating that kind of profit. So, that's not the only business indicator of success or the only success indicator within business. Being your own boss. So having your own business, does it mean that you're going to have the kind of freedom that you're hoping for? Well, early days when you have a business, it's it takes a lot of long hours and hard work. So you might think you're going to have the evenings and weekends off, but as it turns out, you're probably going to work harder than you've ever worked before. And I guess lastly, I'd just say, you know, some of the misconceptions is not all ideas are good. So you might think you have the best idea, but if you don't have any customers that are willing to pay for your service, it's hard to run a business when you have something that no one wants to pay for. So that would be
Absolutely. Yeah.
the misconceptions.
Yeah. And you touched on like building a team and a staff. So what have been your biggest learnings when it comes to being an employer and having employees and going down that role?
Well, that's, a good question. From a learning standpoint, I like to run things fairly lean. So in both of my businesses that I've started, obviously I didn't just go out and hire a bunch of employees. So I have had some students and that sort of thing working in my business. And if I kind of looked at just some of the things that were important, not just in business, but even in a previous life when I worked in the corporate world, communication obviously is key, right? Being able to communicate what's expected, by the employees is important, not just for them, but also important for you because it helps you kind of, validate what it is that's important to your business and how they can help grow your business. Leading by example. I mean, when you have employees or you have people that's working with you, it's very important to be willing to roll up your sleeves. It's not kind of getting in that big comfy chair and, thinking that, oh, look, I have employees now, so I can just, step back and, they're going to solve all the problems or address all the needs of the customer. Very important to be able to kind of get in there when you need to. And, celebrating those successes. I think sometimes, um, you know, businesses don't do enough to realize, some of those successes and realizing that the employees are a big part of that success, right? It takes a team. And, any successful businesses have a successful team and people that believe in the mission and the vision of the business. So very important to make sure that you're celebrating those successes. Um, you know, People, especially this day and age, people that are working in your business, very important to, make sure that you're helping people grow in the professional development and, growing not just, as, a skill, but as a person as a whole, right? Very important to celebrate, those things and making sure that your team is, developing in a professional and a life related way. And balance. I mean, if you have employees, obviously very important to understand, that they do have a life outside of work, and it's very important to support them in that.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you're going to market and owning an online job market business, what do you find employers are looking for in employees now, and how are they fostering that positive work environment?
Well, I think employers are obviously looking for people that are gonna, you know, um, meet the needs of their business, number one. Number two, they're looking for people that, are adaptable and, looking to kind of contribute to that mission and, helping, be part of a cohesive team. Because you just can't do things by yourself. I mean, that's, where the power is working with a team and making sure that, someone else on the team has your back. And at the end of the day, it's all about keeping the customer happy. And with no customers, there's not much of a business, right? So once
Right.
again, I think it's very important to kind of make sure that the customer is at the center and you have a solid team that makes sure that the customer needs are being met. Just kind of sharing some of those positive, kind of vibes within, a business and, knowing that, things aren't going to be perfect, but, it's important to kind of, lift each other up when there is some of those challenges that are maybe unexpected when you're running your business or just working in a team. It's not always sunshine and rainbows, but I think at the end of the day, if you have a solid team and you're working together and you believe in what it is you're working towards, things are going to work out.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and thinking back over the last few years in business, if you had to start all over again from square one, what would you do differently the next time around?
Well, that's always an interesting question. And, you know, when I started in business, I really didn't know a whole lot about business. I'd been more kind of focused on IT operations, working in the corporate world. And I guess if I thought about some of the things that I would change now that I know more about business, I I'm quite happy that I learned things in the way I did because sometimes you got to go through these, challenges and pitfalls, and that's, the way things are going to stick. But, I would obviously be a little bit more thorough in my market research. So, even though I had a fairly good handle on what the pain points customers were experiencing within IT, my IT essentials business, and the online job market. I guess I would kind of do a little bit more digging early on to make sure I understood that pain point a little bit better than maybe I thought I did early on.
Right.
Naturally, I kind of learned about that as the business development. And that kind of goes hand in hand with validation of the idea, right? Just making sure that you're kind of solving that pain point that customers are willing to pay for. Um, I probably would have been a little bit quicker to building a strong team,
Okay.
because you just can't do it by yourself. And although I like to bootstrap and I like to kind of have a lean business model, I think it's important to be able to kind of build a team where you can delegate and, grow that team in a way that's going to kind of scale and grow a little bit quicker than you would if you were bootstrapping. Um, just a little bit more, thoughts around the financial planning and management of that. Got to be able to balance the books and you got to be bringing in more money than you're putting out. So just getting
Right.
really tight on that and really it's ultimately what it boils down to is having a solid business plan and understand the finances within the business. And yeah, just I guess focusing on the customer and understanding what that ideal customer looks like. So just making sure that you know what's keeping them up at night and how you can help solve some of those challenges for them makes it a little bit easier as you're looking to build on that business.
Yeah, creating the leverage and being able to divide the multiply through extra staff is something that's huge. And you can experience exponential growth with the right people working with you. So that's a good angle you have on that. So what would you, thinking back, what do you attribute your growth to that you're experiencing now?
Well, for me, lifelong learning's always been a big thing for me. So, continuous learning and self-improvement, I think is key. Um, you know, to be able to kind of build on that growth and learn. Just I've done a lot of networking and stuff through the years. So building meaningful relationships, and having, mentors or people that you can call when you do have those challenges within the business. So being able to pick up the phone and, reaching out to those mentors or people that have likely seen it before, uh, you know, someone that's new in business, and just having a fairly solid peer group. So, for instance, within IT, I've maintained some connections with, for instance, the Project Management Institute and just some of the other, technology hubs out there. So just maintaining that peer group. And I guess the other thing that, growing within the business is really just getting out of your comfort zone and taking calculated risks. So, sometimes it might seem a little bit daunting or scary, but, when you're in those situations, that's when you're learning the most. So just taking those calculated risks and not being scared to take, a bit of a risk as long as it's mitigated, and getting out of your comfort zone, really helps kind of grow in ways that, might be uncomfortable, but, it's probably the fastest way to grow is put yourself in a situation that you don't know the answer to, because hopefully you're going to kind of come up with, how you're going to get yourself out of that or how you're going to approach it. And if you know, if maybe you don't have the answer to it, you're definitely going to learn something. So I think that's important part of growth.
Yeah, absolutely. At Action Coach, we don't try to get you outside your comfort zone. We try to make your comfort zone bigger, because that's just the approach to it. It's uncomfortable, but if you expand your education, your knowledge, your abilities, that comfort zone just keeps expanding, and then you're always comfortable within it. Is the way that we approach things, which makes it good. So you're obviously a pretty busy person. So how do you balance your personal life with the demands of running a business, multiple businesses in your case?
Well, I guess if I started now, I don't know if this has much, to do with the balance, but you can probably tell I'm very passionate about what I'm doing. So that's always big. You gotta know your why in business. And if you're passionate about what you're doing, it's not, as quick to tire someone versus doing something that you don't really love. So that's
Right.
number one. I would say just, being focused on what it is that you're passionate about. But when it boils down to balancing the personal life, exercise, I do a lot of walking, and that's where I do, most of my thinking. And as you're out walking, it's just a good way to kind of gather your thoughts. And then when you kind of get back, maybe after a long walk, it's a great opportunity to kind of start to action some of those things that you might have kind of, you know, determined along that walk. So a bit of a list of action items. So walking, exercise is important. Also social activity. I think it's important to be able to kind of balance, work with that, life related thing. And I have a meetup group actually with 1,400 people in it. So we get out and do a lot of social activities like, interesting enough, since March 2021, when we started this social activity group, we've had 240 some in-person events. So some of the
Wow.
events that we do are things like we'll go and play pool, ping pong, bowling, golf, comedy, karaoke. So just a lot of different events to kind of bring people together from a social aspect. And it kind of takes me away from the business, while I'm at these events. We really try to focus on the social side of things. And, that's also feeds into my peer network, right? Because I meet a lot of, good people that, you know, might be looking to kind of build out their network, and it's a good opportunity to kind of, focus on the social aspect, but really build out that network of friends and people.
Absolutely. That's a solid approach. So last question I have for you here, Paul, today is as you're looking out into the universe and there's some future entrepreneurs watching this back, what kind of advice do you have for them about thinking about getting started in business?
Well, I guess the first thing that kind of comes to mind, and I know I've kind of struggled with this through the years, is start, right?
Right.
You might have that idea that's been percolating for years, but if you don't start, you're just going to kind of delay, the objective of eventually maybe getting to the point where your business is really successful and you're ready to either sell it or maybe move on to something else. But it's so important to kind of start and get clear on, just what it is that you're trying to solve, and are there paying customers out there, and understanding that market. And so that would be the main thing, is starting. Um, just looking at who's out there and understanding, you know, who's doing something to solve what it is you're looking to solve, but how can you do it better, right? Do that
Right.
research up front. And then the other thing is really just understanding that it's not going to be easy, right? So get ready for that, right? When you start that business, there's going to be days when, you just don't feel like going out and making sales, but hopefully you can get up the next day and maybe pick up where you left off when you were making sales. And there's going to be ups and downs, but get started. Don't be scared to kind of, learn along the way. And yeah, just be really clear on what it is you're trying to solve, and make sure that your why and your passion is very clear in your mind, because there's going to be days when you're thinking to yourself like, gee, this is hard. Well, it is going to be hard. I mean, but you need to be able to pick yourself up and know that, days are going to get easier if you stay focused and you have the solution to the problem that customers are looking for. Eventually, it's all going to make sense, but keep going. Don't stop. Get started.
Absolutely. Well, Paul, that's a fantastic finish, and I thank you so much for your time today. And to everyone watching, look forward to seeing you in our next Business Spotlight interview.
Thanks so much, and really appreciated the discussion today.
Thank you, Paul.